Those absolute scumbags. And I'm not actually, in this case, just talking about Prince Harry in the midst of his mental breakdown in Portugal, but also the people who are feeding these lies, who are taking these too seriously, who are causing damage to the British royal family as a result. Honestly, it was so obvious that Prince Harry was using this trip to the United Kingdom as another bargaining tool, as another attempt to bounce his father, as emotional blackmail. And some people were sucked in. And that's what's super frustrating about it. I mean, this is why actually you have to rely on the independent media, not the mainstream media on this front, because I mean, The Sun was having a total crisis on Saturday. They were splashing on their front page about Prince Harry's pilgrimage and the fact that he was going to take Archie and Lilibet on this emotional visit to Diana's grave. There's Matt Wilkinson, the royal editor, published at 9 p.m. on the 26th of June. Well, just literally 21 hours later, security stub. Harry may not bring Meghan and the kids to UK next month as security request rejected days after King's olive branch. Now, we just have to stick to the facts here. There was never a change to security. There was never any indication that there was going to be a change to security. Harry's security situation has been exactly this since Megxit, when he was, by the way, warned by Queen Elizabeth II and King Charles, now King Charles, then Prince Charles, and Prince William, you are going to lose your security if you go through with this. Think about it, make sure we're going to give you that year's grace. He thought about it. Nothing has changed. Indeed, it has always been a media invention that there might even be a change, as XS81 pointed out. So Harry's G-string girlfriend. I mean, that is a reference to Charlotte Griffiths, maybe not fair given that they were intimate many years ago, but she was the first to report Harry's security. Nailed on back in January through the Mail on Sunday. And do you remember that headline? Prince Harry's stalker scare means he's nailed on to be given armed police guards. Insiders claim. And as Jen Carson-Taylor pointed out, at this point, we know those reporters in the Sussex WhatsApp group are either willfully complicit in their relentless games, as well as the smears against William or Catherine, or they are incredibly gullible and incompetent. Look, I'd say it's a bit of both, because we certainly know there is a mainstream desire to bring Harry back to the UK, to cause drama for the British royal family. They definitely want that to happen, and they do believe absolute bull. I mean, come on. This show exposed the fact that Harry's so-called stalker was a fan, an African woman who had travelled to Africa and they had previously happily posed with. Come on. That was never going to change security, and shame on the Mail for pushing that narrative, even though at that point they were trying to cozy up with Harry ahead of the court case, hoping that he was going to settle. That's the thing. I'll always tell you what's really behind this coverage. And the most ludicrous thing is, in the midst of this breakdown that Harry is currently having, he's still briefing his favoured media outlets the fact that he's on holiday, which no one knew, which puts him under a security threat. This to People magazine. Look, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry take family vacation in Europe. It's Portugal, as questions swirl over the UK visit. And they said they are currently vacationing there with their children as well. And then it's just total madness, because People reports Harry and Meghan have planned public appearances. Archie and Lily not expected to attend any public engagements. It then reports The Telegraph saying that Harry is reconsidering the visit. But then they go on to report People understands that the details shared by the Sussexes on Friday night remain unchanged. So it's a mess. It is a total mess. And what's interesting is that Harry is now realising that the only newspaper in the UK that will take him seriously is the hard-left, monarchy-hating Guardian. And the briefing to the Guardian over the weekend was truly nuts. And I'm actually ashamed of the Guardian for publishing this. They write, the Duke of Sussex fears his children will not meet King Charles in the coming days after the UK visit was pulled out from under their feet at the 11th hour. It wasn't As I say, nothing has changed. Prince Harry and Meghan were planning their first trip to Britain as a family in 4 years for events related to the Invictus Games. The Duke was said to have been excited for Archie and Lily to be reunited with Charles during the visit early next month. However, the family trip now appears uncertain after the government declined his request for police protection outside royal residences. A source close to Harry said on Sunday the prince was distraught at the development and that he would not subject his children to being chased by paparazzi wherever they go from the moment they step off the plane. Harry, you live in California. What are you talking about, mate? They said Harry was exploring other options to make the trip happen, but feared this would not be possible without proper security arrangements. The source told The Guardian their plans to see family, friends, and visit various charitable causes close to the Duke's heart have been pulled out from under their feet at the 11th hour. He's looking at every option to try and get the family here safely and keep them safe when they're on the ground. If he can find a way to do that, he will. The hope is that they can meet their grandfather, but there is no way that can happen if they are chased by paparazzi wherever they go from the moment they step off the plane. He won't put his children through that. But what is actually happening is that Harry is having a breakdown on holiday and he has lost the plot. And you can imagine how difficult it must be if you're part of his team who have just released the schedule to the media on Friday. Then Harry on Saturday freaks out and says, pull the whole thing. I mean, it's so embarrassing. It is so childish. Celebrities come here all the time under far more threat than Harry, and they just get by if they want to. And there's also no pressure. There's no demand for Harry to be in this country. Trust me. There's no demand for Meghan to be in this country. Actually, there's not even a demand for the children to be in this country. We don't care anymore. What we care about is the drama and the fact that he continues to damage the British royal family to such a strong degree. I'm not going to lie, I also do care about King Charles's weakness, and his weakness on this is really disturbing. Indeed, I am told that Charles is still open to a meeting. William isn't, Camilla isn't, but Charles is. Tom Sykes, who I think is one of those journalists who feels very betrayed by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, has now really come out against the Duke, saying paranoid Prince Harry has betrayed everyone and will sacrifice anyone to get what he wants. And he says at the heart of the discredited Sussex brand sits a man, Harry, in the throes of some kind of profound mental dysfunction. Unbelievably, I understand the king is still willing to meet Meghan and the children if they fly in for a day. This is a humiliation that must be avoided. And Sykes then went into quite a lot of detail about Harry's mental breakdown during this holiday in Portugal, confirming that he is in tears and going all out with unpleasant histrionics. Watch.
I'm told that Harry is basically retreating into paranoia, severe depression, anxiety, that he's been crying over this. They're on holiday in Portugal. We suspect fairly near Beatrice. Eugenie. Oh, I did it again. I confused Beatrice and Eugenie. We suspect that they're at that luxury resort that Jack Brooksbanks manages, and where they're said to have purchased the property. But it was in People magazine, which, as we know, is the sort of school magazine of the Sussexes, where they put all their notices. So they are in Portugal. But yeah, I've been told that Harry in tears, like his voice breaking when he's been speaking to people on the phone.
I mean, it's a joke. Rebecca English, who of course writes on behalf of Buckingham Palace as the head of the Royal Rota, said that after a week of claim, counterclaim, reverse ferreting and suggestions about what individuals may think as regards reports Prince Harry has accepted an offer of accommodation on the royal estate, no such overture is understood to have been received by the royal household. So as Brittany of the Royal News Network put it, being part of Harry and Meghan's PR team must be absolute hell. The series of absolute blunders over their just 5-day visit is insane. But at least on the bright side, Ravek is telling Harry that they've reviewed his security needs for this trip and found there was nothing of concern. That should make him feel better. And of course, Brittany, if we were dealing with a sane individual who wasn't constantly living in paranoia, constantly believing that the British royal family were in some way wanting to kill him, and I'm not even joking when I say that, by the way, that is honestly where his head is at, then he would feel that way. But because he is constantly looking for drama, constantly looking for people to bring him down, he has literally destroyed, I believe, the one chance he had to bring anyone on side Brittany.
He definitely did, Dan. This stunt was just sheer stupidity on multiple levels. I don't even understand what the attempt was and what they were trying to achieve, like maybe something, but this was just a series of absolute blunders that makes them look terrible, their PR team look terrible. And at the end of the day, it's really accomplished nothing, but I think turn more people against them. You cannot pursue this level of stupidity and not have it backfire on you. And Prince Harry, of course, living in the land of delusion, he's a narcissist, paranoid, all these things is simply just not helping him. It's not helping Meghan. It's not helping anyone. And the reality is, Ravik has looked at his case multiple times at this point. Every time he comes to the UK, they can do a review and assessment, and they haven't found anything to be concerned about. And so I don't know what he just seems to think that there's the whole world against him and everything. I can't imagine living with somebody like him at this point, between Meghan's absolute maniacal narcissism and Harry's delusional paranoid narcissism. I mean, it just must be hell to live with them on every level.
Those
I
poor
know.
children, actually.
Awful.
And poor Jack Brooksbank and Princess Eugenie, who clearly have found themselves in the middle during this holiday. Brittany, I guess there are still the few people who are swallowing the Sussex propaganda. And you know, I always like to present both sides. So one of them is Chris Shipp, who is the royal editor for Woke ITV News. And he has actually been community noted on X over this. So he posted, the arguments over Prince Harry's UK security rumble on. Now Harry considering not bringing Meghan and children with him to UK next week after being told he will get nothing more than the police phone number for a liaison officer. Whatever your view of Harry and Meghan and their decision to leave the royal family, it seems bizarre that King Charles's son and grandchildren, who are 5th, 6th and 7th in line to the British throne, get zero public security, but Taylor Swift does when she is in the UK. Now, one of the community notes Brittany read, other than the monarch, the only royals to get 24/7 security are the Prince of Wales and his family. The other working royals are only given that when they were on public engagements. Beatrice and Eugenie, then exactly 5th and 6th in line to the throne, lost Met security in 2011. The other thing is, Brittany, this Taylor Swift example is being used hugely irresponsibly. And I would expect someone like Chris Shipp to know better. But actually, Brittany, he isn't a journalist, in my view. He's part of the mainstream media, yes. But when it comes to Harry and Meghan, he is a propagandist for them because Tom Bradby is very good friends with him and is his boss, effectively. And Harry parrots all of this stuff to Tom Bradby directly. So Chris Shipp feels like he has to be their mouthpiece. But the Taylor Swift thing is so irresponsible to report it in this way. Brittany, if Taylor Swift arrived in the country with Travis Kelce tomorrow, she would receive absolutely no police security. She received police security once, Brittany, when she arrived in the country for those Eras gigs at Wembley Stadium, and there was a terrorist threat, which we don't like to talk about, right? Because you'd actually are meant to keep these security issues quiet, Harry, if you knew anything about it. There was a direct terror threat. She was bringing in something like £1 billion to the UK economy, and they decided that they wanted the concerts to go ahead, and as a result, she would be given police security on that one visit. So if there were a terror threat against Prince Harry, he would get it, and no one would complain about that. So this idea that Chris Shipp is pushing, that Taylor Swift can just swan into the country and get police security, is just not even close to true.
It's not, Dan. And what's so important here, too, is the Ariana Grande concert in Manchester and the terrorist attack that happened there. And there was a threat in Austria. I think that the security came along after the Austrian concerts
the Vienna
were canceled,
concert was
and they
actually
moved
cancelled.
them
Yeah.
because of a terrorist threat.
And also,
so
Brittany,
there was,
remember that the Axel Ruda Cabana case, it was a Taylor Swift dance class where the 3 little girls were stabbed to death.
Yes, exactly.
All of that happened at that time.
Yes. So all of that coming together, I mean, obviously, it's incredibly important to for somebody who's bringing in so many people to one central location, it's important to have security. It's important to have security around the stadium, around her, because she is bringing so much attention and so much money. Harry, in this instance, I hate to tell him this, but he's constitutionally irrelevant, and so are his children. And as time marches on, and this happens in every single royal family, as time marches on, Harry will get more and more and more irrelevant, and so will his children. Because as the Wales's kids have kids, this just basically Harry leaving with Mexit sped up the inevitable. This would have always happened to Harry and Meghan. Always. I mean, you have to think of the Duke of Gloucester. He was born at fifth in line to the throne, and now I think he's somewhere in the 20s. So this is something that happens in every royal family as more children are born, and as the Wales's kids have kids, again, Harry and Meghan and their kids will become even more irrelevant. So at this point, there's just absolutely no reason to expend money on Harry unless there is, again, a legitimate threat, but an assessment has been made, and there is nothing. The threat is in Harry's head. And I hate to say it as well, this is just my opinion, but I think his own security team fuels his delusions because he'll pay them more to keep them around because they've told him there's a threat. And so you have all these things working together, again, in my opinion, that I think fuel an absolute paranoia, delusions, and it's only damaging Harry, making him look worse and making his father look worse as well.
Yeah, and I mean, the US and the UK are very different, Brittany, because, of course, we don't have the same proliferation of guns in this country. So that is one of the reasons why private security in this country can't carry guns. There are just different laws around guns. But when it comes to Islamist terror, yes, that is a threat, especially here in the UK. But that's why he would get it if there was any specific threat. I also point out, Brittany, the reason that Harry is such a target is because of what he chose to write in Spare, which was after he left the British royal family, boasting about how many of the members of the Taliban he had personally killed. So for Harry to make this claim, Brittany, that the threat to him, the Islamist threat to him, is simply because of his birthright, as a member of the British royal family, is actually untrue. The Islamist threat to him became far, far worse after he published Spare, which I note he did not as a member of the British royal family, not as someone who was living in the United Kingdom, well, certainly not as a working member of the British royal family. You know what I'm saying. By the way, it was good to see Richard Eden of the Daily Mail, someone else in the mainstream, actually call out Chris Shipp, saying this is a bizarre thing for an intelligent, knowledgeable reporter to say. Taylor Swift does not receive automatic police protection, neither do Princess Anne nor Prince Edward, for example, when they're not carrying out royal engagements. Why should Harry and Meghan? And I think, again, Brittany, it's not something we usually like to talk about because actually you don't want to really signpost the fact that Anne and Edward, when they're just out and about or at the supermarket or at the farm shop, whatever they're happening to do, that they are not protected. And this is the other problem, I think, with what Harry's doing. He is forcing all of these conversations, which are incredibly sensitive for very obvious reasons, into the public spotlight. And it's going to go down terribly.
I don't know about you, but every time it seems like this royal saga is finally calming down, something happens that throws everything back into chaos. Just when people thought the relationship between Prince Harry and the royal family couldn't become any more complicated, another wave of headlines exploded across the media. But here's what immediately caught my attention. Not because of what was reported, but because of how quickly the story kept changing. Over the course of just a few days, different outlets appeared to paint completely different pictures of what was happening. Some reports suggested reconciliation might finally be within reach. Others claimed travel plans had suddenly become uncertain. Still others questioned whether the entire situation had been misunderstood from the beginning. Now I want to be very clear. Much of what I'm discussing comes from media reports, commentary, and public speculation, not established fact. That's exactly why this story has become so controversial. So today I'm taking you through every twist, every contradiction, and every question that's left royal watchers debating what really happened. And trust me, this story only gets more complicated. What do you think? Are we watching genuine family difficulties unfold, or another example of the media creating its own royal storm? Let me know in the comments, because I think this conversation is far from over.
really is, Dan, and it's not going to help his relationship with his father or really anyone. Like the idea that Harry has friends and family to actually meet in the UK is a bit of a joke at this point. Remember, he was the guy wandering around a neighborhood trying to find his friends after they moved and kept ringing random doorbells and freaking out the neighbors. This guy is just absolutely just a delusional narcissist at this point, and he's just causing damage wherever he goes in this just massive man-child temper tantrum. Like that's what this all is. And he is risking other people's safety. Like this is the whole thing with Harry and Meghan as well, with Netflix and everything and the things they revealed there. They're risking everyone in this selfish pursuit of themselves with an objective that's just not possible. Harry is constitutionally irrelevant, and so are his children. And I hate to say it, but I think this does come back in some ways to Charles to figure out how to manage and contain Harry, because Harry and Meghan right now are loose cannons, they're rogue royals, and they're just causing, again, immense damage. And they're doing so with royal titles. And this is why the royal titles have to go. Harry and Meghan can be crazy on their own time. I mean, as a reminder, you can't really reason with crazy. So you can't really reason with Harry and Meghan. Just strip everything from them, cut them loose. They're drains on the system now at this point, and it's just better to let them go. They can be crazy over there in their own corner, but with the royal titles, with the connections to the monarchy, they just continue to undermine the institution to the detriment of everyone.
I totally agree. And of course, Brittany, the irony with all of this for people who haven't caught up over the weekend is that it was actually Harry and Meghan who released all of their plans on Friday, something that they don't have to do. You know, that private citizens, like when Taylor Swift comes here, she's not announcing to the media she's going to be here. She just deals with her team and she deals with any charitable things she's going to do. It's all done privately. And that is one of the ways that you actually keep the risk down. But anyway, Harry and Meghan did decide to announce it to all of the media privately on Friday. And they revealed that Meghan would be visiting a hospital. Of course she would, in her first UK engagement for 6 years. Here was the reporting in the pro-Sussex Telegraph, who said the couple will undertake meetings and at least one public event together as they mark 1 year until the Invictus Games in Birmingham. The children not expected to join their parents in public, although the itinerary is subject to change. Prince Harry will undertake engagements from July the 7th till 11th, including a charity festival, Bereaved Children. He will attend a symposium about sick and injured military personnel linked to his Invictus Games and visit Birmingham's Children's Hospital to celebrate the 20th anniversary of its Well Child Nurse, a role created to support children with complex medical conditions and their family. The Duke and Duchess will both attend meetings related to the Invictus at the Royal Hospital Chelsea, home of the Chelsea pensioners and their distinctive uniforms. On July 10th, the Duke and Duchess will visit Birmingham's National Exhibition Centre for the Invictus 1 Year to Go event. He will watch and take part in exhibition events with veteran competitors. On the final day of the trip, the Duke will attend Scotty's Summer Festival at Maxstoke Castle in Warwickshire with bereaved military children from the charity Scotty's Little Soldiers. So they put all of this into the public spotlight, including the hospital visit, which disgusted a lot of people. According to Taz writing, Meghan will also be doing her Diana Act at another hospital focusing on sick children. This is honestly diabolical. Meghan doesn't care about others. She cares about optics. She uses people as props. Kids know she's fake as well. Tori Buckingham, who I really respect on X, how can anybody take this gruesome pair of charity grifters seriously while they treat Markle's 81-year-old invalid father as a pariah, even refusing to visit him in hospital while he was undergoing an amputation? And Brittany, you were not impressed either, writing, leveraging sick children to promote themselves is pretty disgusting. Charles is just seemingly too weak-willed to put an end to this cosplay royal routine.
Yes, Dan. I mean, when it comes to all of this with Charles, of course, Harry and Meghan are acting like royals still. This is part of the huge problem with Harry and Meghan, is that they're still constantly announcing when they're going to visit places. Like you said, most normal celebrities don't do that. There is no reason Harry and Meghan had to even announce that the children were coming with them or that Meghan was attending. They could have kept that all under wraps. They're the ones who decided to go public and act continually like they're still royals and representing the royal family or themselves. I'm not sure, Dan, what they're attempting to do here, but this all goes back to this is the only thing I guess they know. They think this is going to work out well for them, and they haven't had any blowback yet, really, from the monarchy and the institution. And so they continue to do this, and this is why it's within Charles's best interest to address this cosplay royal routine. This has to end. And Harry and Meghan aren't going to stop. It's on Charles to do it, or unfortunately, it might end up falling to William if Charles doesn't do anything. But this chaos and everything, it's always Harry and Meghan. They are always doing these sorts of things, and they're just not going to stop. And so the only answer the monarchy has is to stop them. And at this point, they just seem unwilling to do it.
The first thing that stood out to me wasn't even the reported events themselves. It was how quickly the narrative seemed to change. One moment, headlines suggested Prince Harry was preparing an emotional family visit connected to Britain and the legacy of Princess Diana. Before long, other reports suggested those plans had become uncertain because of ongoing security concerns. Now, according to multiple reports, nothing official had actually changed regarding Harry's long-running security arrangements. That's an important distinction because much of the controversy seems to revolve around differing interpretations rather than confirm new decisions. That immediately made me wonder whether some of these dramatic headlines were getting ahead of the verified facts. And once people noticed those contradictions, the debate exploded. Supporters argued Harry was facing genuine concerns. Critics questioned whether the situation was being portrayed in the most dramatic possible way. Either way, public opinion quickly became divided all over again. Would you have interpreted those headlines differently? Security has become one of the biggest ongoing debates surrounding Prince Harry ever since he stepped away from royal duties. Some commentators believe his concerns deserve serious consideration. Others argue that the current arrangements have been explained repeatedly through official processes and reviews. Those two viewpoints couldn't be further apart. What fascinated me was how every new report seemed to reopen exactly the same argument. Instead of bringing clarity, each article seemed to generate even more confusion. And that's where the controversy really intensified. Because once media outlets started quoting unnamed sources and conflicting accounts, people were left wondering which version, if any, reflected what was actually happening. That's the problem with royal stories. Sometimes the biggest story isn't the event itself. It's the conflicting narrative surrounding it. Do you think the media sometimes fuels these royal controversies more than the royals themselves? Another major talking point involves speculation about whether family meetings might happen during any future visit. Some reports suggested hopes remained alive. Others indicated uncertainty. Still others reported that no formal arrangements had been confirmed. Again, those were media reports and commentary, not confirmed facts. But once those reports reached the public, debate intensified almost immediately. People started asking whether reconciliation was genuinely possible. Others questioned whether expectations had become unrealistic after years of public disagreements. Personally, watching these conflicting reports appear one after another made me realize just how difficult it has become for anyone following royal news to separate confirmed developments from speculation. And that's exactly why every new headline now creates another wave of controversy. Whose side are you leaning toward after everything that's happened? One thing I noticed throughout this entire situation was how different commentators reached completely different conclusions from the same series of reports. Some believed Harry's concerns reflected genuine frustrations. Others argued the coverage itself had become part of the controversy. That's something worth thinking about, because once multiple commentators begin interpreting anonymous briefings differently, the public ends up debating opinions instead of verified events. That's exactly what happened here. Every new television appearance, every newspaper column, every online discussion added another layer to an already complicated story. No wonder royal watchers struggled to know what to believe. Do you think too many anonymous sources make royal reporting harder to trust? What really fascinated me was the public reaction. Social media lit up with arguments from every direction. Some people expressed sympathy for Harry. Others believed the situation reflected broader tensions that have existed ever since he stepped back from royal life. Neither side seemed willing to back down. And that's what keeps these royal stories dominating headlines. It's rarely just about one event. It's about years of history, emotion, public perception, and competing interpretations all colliding at once. That combination almost guarantees another controversy every time something new happens. Would this story have received the same attention if it involved anyone outside the royal family? At the end of the day, I think this story says just as much about today's media environment as it does about the royal family itself. Throughout this entire situation, we've seen reports, counter-reports, commentary, speculation, public debate, and countless opinions circulating at incredible speed. Some claims have been disputed. Some remain unverified. Others continue to be debated by commentators and royal observers. That's why I think it's important to separate confirmed information from opinion, while still recognizing why these stories generate so much discussion. One thing is certain, the relationship between Prince Harry and the royal family continues to attract enormous public attention, and every new development quickly becomes the center of another worldwide debate. But now I want to hear from you. What do you think really happened? Did the media amplify this controversy? Or do you believe the ongoing tensions naturally make every royal story feel bigger than it really is? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because there is never a shortage of royal stories to unpack, and I'll be right here covering the next chapter with you.